Do you believe in ghosts? If so, you're likely to find them in one of these 10 abandoned places you never knew existed. Empty of the life that once moved through their halls, these creepy places sit decaying, waiting for you to explore. So take a deep breath, watch your step, and join the hub for a stroll through these hidden gems lying just outside the range of your GPS. And where we're going, there sure as heck isn't any Wi-Fi. Click the subscribe button so you'll always know where to find us. Mount Sinabung, Indonesia. In Middle-earth, orcs, trolls, and other dark creatures occupy the land around Mount Doom. On regular Earth, however, the grounds in the shadow of Mount Sinabung are no place for humans. Towering high above Indonesia's Sumatra Island, the main drag lies in the mountain's red zone and has been left to rust as overgrown weeds cover roads, building walls cave in, and stores lay looted and empty. It is forbidden to enter the red zone, but whether a visit is worth the risk of getting covered in government fines or volcanic ash, well, that's up to you. It definitely didn't bother Kiao Wei Long, a renegade photographer who snuck past government defenses to walk through abandoned metal warehouses and twisted wooden shacks. Once home to 10,000 people, the threat of eruption in 2014 caused the population to flee with just the clothes on their backs. As Kiao snuck through the deserted homes with family photos still hanging, there were living rooms and bedrooms and hallways full of thrown about knickknacks and hastily packed pieces of luggage left behind. With toxic gas still spewing into the sky, Mount Sinabung will have a red zone around it for a long time to come. Mothball Fleet, California. What happens when a battleship sees its last battle? It's not sold to a smaller country like some used car. No, it gets mothballed. Off the coast of San Francisco, battleships, destroyers, and aircraft carriers are tied together and left there as the United States' ultimate contingency plan. Some ships are more than 50 years old, having seen action from the Persian Gulf all the way back to World War II. These salty sea dogs lie in wait until their nation needs them and they're called back into service. Like the cast of Full House. While they sit, they're eventually taken apart for scrap and retired. Originally, 340 ships dotted the bay, but now only 10 remain, with turrets still on deck, portholes intact, and even old books and furniture in the quarters. On a ship like the USS Northern Light, certain rooms still have retro lampshades, vintage chairs, and Cold War era maps, making you feel like you stepped into the 70s or 60s, or even the 50s. Look deep enough though, and you may come across the Sea Shadow. Docked inside a larger cruiser, this super expensive stealth ship looks like a sleek boat version of a Blackbird fighter jet, and it was hiding in a rusting cargo hold untouched for 30 years. Power plant, Belgium. The quiet Belgian village of Maunsell-sur-Sambre is a great escape from city life, and its abandoned power plant would also make an excellent hiding place from brain-starved zombies. In the 1920s, it started as a coal-burning plant, becoming the center point of Belgium's Charleroi district. In its heyday, its giant cooling tower filtered an incredible 480,000 gallons of water per minute to cool down the mines below. As plumes of smoke would billow up through the vents and smog up the surrounding area, the power supplied by this facility was tremendous. But the price of this mine was that it provided a whopping 10% of Belgium's total carbon footprint. It was closed 10 years ago, and for the past decade, it sat unused. Looking up to the sky through the vents looks as if you're peering through the bottom of a jet engine. Meanwhile, in the center of the floor is a cracked concrete funnel spiraling downward into darkness, like some quiet portal to the underworld. The cylindrical tower walls slope inward and upward and have a sci-fi aesthetic, like unused sets from Alien or The Matrix. Although the concrete floor is mossy, the guardrails along the walkways are rusted over, and the walls have been stripped of much of their metal by trespassers, it's still breathtaking to see. Winchester Mystery House, California. Speaking of a portal to the underworld, that's exactly what Sarah Winchester feared might open up in her house, which is why she kept building and building upon her later abandoned estate, to run from the spirits haunting her family. Mrs. Winchester was heir to the famous pistol business of the same name, and although she was the beneficiary of the inheritance, she tried to escape her reputation. Feeling responsible for the many deaths her business's guns brought about, she bought an 8-room farmhouse on the opposite end of the country in San Jose in 1886. But that wasn't enough. Stories say that in order to evade haunting spirits, she had addition after addition of rooms built all around the mansion. She created a maze with doorways leading nowhere, windows facing walls, and staircases heading into solid ceilings. Her construction crew kept working for 36 straight years until her death, completing 160 rooms, 2 basements, and 10,000 windows. With portions of the house closed off following a 1906 earthquake and the rest of the building left unoccupied after her death, the Winchester Mystery House is now open to puzzle the public. Centralia, Pennsylvania. In 1962, the small mining town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, experienced an event that changed it forever. Miners began burning garbage outside of one of the mine's entrances and ignited a small coal fire. It's the very same fire that's still burning today. Flaming after 50 years, it shows no signs of stopping. At first, firefighters dug trenches and tried to flush the fire out with wet gravel, but the sheer heat burned through all these attempts. Centralia, a town of 1,000 citizens, now sits over a maze of deep and winding tunnels. While the mining stopped, the fire's expected to keep burning for at least another 250 years. When faced with the prospect of living in a house that's turning into a convection oven, or taking the loss and moving elsewhere, all but 10 villagers made the tough call to leave. Those brave or stubborn few who stayed behind live in a ghost town where driveways lead to empty lots and paved streets crack open like baking bread. Ramshackle homes lie next to pits spitting out sulfurous gas. Snowfall melts in patches, revealing just where the underground fire is happening. So, if you visit, don't step on a crack or you'll give yourself an asthma attack. Balaklava Submarine Base, Crimea. The Balaklava Submarine Base in Crimea lies in a location that's been fought over for centuries. During the Cold War, it was along the dividing line between East and West, and its position between the Aegean and Mediterranean Sea made it ideal for Russia's Navy. Codenamed Object 825, it took 4 years for the Soviet military to carve the subterranean caverns needed to house the secret submarines and nuclear arsenal. Finished in 1957, the base stayed in use until 1996, a few years after the fall of the USSR's government. He left behind a concrete-encased facility that could survive a hit from a 100-kiloton nuclear bomb. A windy inlet cuts through the land leading to the entrance, which is underwater and nearly undetectable to any humans on land. Taking the main tunnel, which cuts directly underneath Mount Tavros, you'd row through a canal leading you past chambers full of deactivated torpedoes. There are ghostly docks and the remnants of departments once dedicated to repairing massive warships. This slim waterway, with a sloping concrete ceiling overhead, leads to the 1,800-foot wide main hangar, which once housed 7 submarines. 7 additional subs would be housed in smaller bays in never-ending tunnels cut deeper into the mountain. Aircraft Boneyard, Arizona. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base isn't your average military installation. Unlike the Balaklava Submarine Hideaway, there isn't really any way for this Air Force facility to hide its contents. In fact, as you head through Tucson, Arizona's South Cove Road, you'll pass a site that you probably can't miss. It's 6.5 square miles of abandoned planes, as far as the eye can see. They're arranged in neat rows, organized by type, from fighter jets to cargo aircrafts. Like the Mothball Fleet off the coast of San Francisco, this grounded air fleet is preserved by the dry desert air. Unlike Mojave Airport in California, a boneyard for commercial airplanes left for scrap, the Tomcat fighters and B-52 bombers in Tucson are stored in tip-top shape before being abandoned here. Never knowing if they'll be called into service, they're covered in 3 coats of paint to deflect the harsh heat of the desert sun. Their engines are drained of fuel and lubricated with special oils, and all exhaust openings are sealed with aluminum tape. Although deserted, one never knows if they'll need to be called back into action, so they lie waiting in the middle of nowhere. Maunsell Forts, United Kingdom. Just outside of Herne Bay in the United Kingdom lies the Red Sands Army Fort. Built during World War II amidst the constant threat of aerial attack, engineer Guy Maunsell devised these stilted and rather unimposing structures. They look more like tree houses at sea than Britain's last line of defense, but these small buildings used to be equipped with anti-aircraft cannons and soldiers stationed for a month at a time. After World War II, many Maunsell forts were scrapped following some unfortunate boating accidents, but Red Sands still stands, rusting away in the sea. Built on land and then assembled in the water, Guy Maunsell's innovatively designed buildings worked like army bases purchased at IKEA, and like that very same furniture, they can last way longer than they're expected. In the 60s, the surviving forts served as pirate radio stations for renegade DJs broadcasting without licenses. Now fully abandoned, they're visible from Shoeburyness East Beach and lie near the self-proclaimed Principality of Sealand, a micronation based out of another nearby man-made sea fort. Seriously, a man just claimed an abandoned concrete island, named himself king, and started issuing made-up passports. If you're up for it, claim a Maunsell Tower for yourself, start your own country, and see what happens. Eastern State Penitentiary, Pennsylvania. Prisons aren't known for being the brightest and happiest places on Earth, but in the 1700s, they were downright inhumane. Overcrowded and full of men, women, and often children, all barely separated, prisons were a chaotic holding pen for a society looking for a quick solution to a variety of social problems. As a result, Eastern State Penitentiary was built, and it's sad to think that this place was an improvement over the norm. Eastern State's philosophy was built around solitary confinement so the prisoners could think on their crimes, and the place seems to have absorbed a lot of the misery expected to come from a prisoner's self-reflection. The design of the elaborate stone castle on the outside gives way to peeling paint and long cell blocks on the inside. It's also hard to fathom that prisoners in the early 1800s had more amenities here than the White House. While Andrew Jackson's administration was heated by coal-burning stoves, the prison cells had toilets flushed with water once per day, a skylight, and central heating. All these concrete toilets and coiled heating pipes are still visible on the walls and floors of the decaying building. Pripyat Amusement Park, Ukraine. If you're still searching for the ideal place to solve Scooby-Doo style mysteries, then check out Pripyat Amusement Park in the Ukraine. But don't forget to bring your radiation suit, because Pripyat lies within the boundaries of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Originally built with an opening day slotted for May 1st, 1986, the park only operated for a single day on April 27th of that year, thanks to the nuclear meltdown. Immediately after the accident, residents reported headaches and a metal taste in their mouths, as, unbeknownst to them, a dangerous level of radiation particles were released into the atmosphere. They were told to leave the area for 3 days, but a later assessment barred them from ever returning. As people evacuated the town, some rides were turned on for the fleeing citizens. Now, Pripyat Amusement Park sits with bumper cars in the same places they were left over 30 years ago. The wooden floors of the merry-go-round are buckling and decaying, and the Ferris wheel, while rusting away, still stands over the place like a headstone in a graveyard. Of all the rides, the Ferris wheel has become a symbol for Pripyat, a promising town destroyed by radiation. Whether it's a long-forgotten village or a ghost fleet that would make the Pirates of the Caribbean jealous, the world is full of rundown playgrounds for you to explore. One man's abandoned home is another's treasure trove, and we at The Hub thank you for joining us off the grid in these 10 abandoned places you never knew existed. We'll see you again soon!